Okay, this video is for St. Peter's Chair of the Feast Day. So what is this about? Yesterday, February 22nd, 2025, was the feast day for St. Peter's Chair, relating to the idea of St. Peter as the first bishop of Rome, the first pope of the Catholic Church. Here's a painting of St. Peter's Chair by Anton Raphael Mengs. I'm just going to show some paintings of the life of St. Peter. Here he's got the flame above his head, symbolizing like Pentecost, speaking in tongues, being able to communicate with people of all languages. And Christianity is the only thing that could, make people in the world get along with each other and be happy and stop all this unnecessary fighting and stuff. Here is, the Catholics get carried away. So here's a painting of St. Peter enthroned with the saints. They call these a sacred conversazione, conversation. Okay, and they like to make a lot of these. The saints and the Christian martyrs are glorified in heaven. On real earth, they suffer pretty bad. That's by Cima de Conegliano. Nice Italian names with lots of vowels. Here's Michelangelo's Last Judgment from 1541. You can always find St. Peter because he's holding a key that Christ had given him, the keys to heaven, so to speak. Okay, and this is a magnificent painting in the Sistine Chapel on the wall there. And, Mary at the seat of mercy. Do they get selected for heaven or hell? And that whole story there. It's a magnificent painting. Oh, there's something funny about that painting, too. There was one guy who was hassling Michelangelo about his figures. There was so much nudity, so Michelangelo drew him being pulled by a snake down into the netherworld. Okay, here is Christ calling the apostles, like, St. Peter and some of the other apostles. I will make you fishers of men. This one's by Domenico Ghirlandaio from 1481. So they were already making great paintings in the 1400s. Christ healing the sick, and St. Peter would tag along and see how it was done. And as a matter of fact, there's a lot to be said for that idea of you can heal man's way or Christ's way. Christ's way is control your stress, get your sunshine, get your exercise, eat your plant foods. It's free and it's available to everybody, and it works a lot better than drugs for chronic disease. Here is Christ and St. Peter walking on the water. And St. Peter had a weakness moment of faith, and he sank down below. There's a great song called Oceans about walking on the water, and it's sung by Hillsong. I like the Hillsong songs. They got a lot of great songs. I think they did a great thing making all those great songs. So there it is. I'll try to remember to put that in the links below. And the easy way to walk on water, of course, is if it's frozen. You can walk on ice. Okay, here is Jesus Christus, Sermon on the Mount, this painting by Carl Bloch from 1877. Oh, and here's some songs, great songs. In Christ Alone by Christian Stanfill. Jesus Only Jesus by Robin Marks. Nearer to God. Christianity is so magnificent for art. It's not even funny. 99% of the great art in the world comes from Christianity. Look at it. It's magnificent. You got magnificent paintings. Christ giving the Sermon on the Mount, telling everybody, be meek in spirit, be nice to each other. That what you do to the least of my brethren, you do unto me. Just be good to each other. The world will be better for everybody, like ripple effect. It ripples out from one person to another. And then it's got the best songs, In Christ Alone by Christian Stanfill. Magnificent. Jesus Only Jesus by Robin Marks. Magnificent. Nearer my God to thee. John McCormick has a great traditional version, sort of the Irish singer. Sam Cooke and the Soul Stirrers have the best sort of fun version. That's magnificent. Waymaker by Christopher Leland's magnificent. And take a look at this statue by Gian Lorenzo Bernini. He was like the Michelangelo of sculptors in the 1600s. It's just magnificent. Okay, so St. Peter was tagging along with Christ and learning, how to make the world a better place. And I just love this quote. There's this lady by the name of Amy E. Balog, and she's got the best art page on Twitter. So Amy E. Balog, and she puts good quotes in there sometimes. Look at this quote she put. And this is a quote by Peter Kreeft, sort of well-known Catholic preacher guy. He says, "The connection between Christ and art is like the connection between sun and the sunlight." It's magnificent. Christianity is magnificent. That's why it produces the best buildings ever made, the cathedrals. It produces the best paintings ever made. It produces the best sculptures ever made, like the one we just saw, like the Pietà by Michelangelo, etc. It produces the best literature, like Les Miserables, Brothers Karamazov, Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, Quo Vadis by Henry Sienkiewicz, and it goes on and on. The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. It goes on and on. Pinocchio is a very Christian book too, by Carlo Collodi, the Italian writer. Okay, here is Christ washing the feet of Peter the Apostle by Dirk van Barberen. And so Christ humbled himself, and he cares about the least of mankind. He's the friend of the little guy, okay? If you're the little guy, which 99% of us are, religion is your friend. It says that your life is meaningful, that you're equal in the eyes of Christ, the ruler, okay? And he says, be nice to the least of my brethren, Man is created in the image of God, and you should not abuse him because he's part divine, okay? Until we have that principle and we take that into common life, you can't fix healthcare. You can't fix anything unless you have that principle, because otherwise it's always just do what the powerful want, okay? So here's Christ's charge, his call to duty for St. Peter. He says, thou art the rock upon which I shall build my church. And you see Peter with the keys. Okay, that's a common theme. There's tons of paintings of that. I'm just going to show you what I think is the best one by Perugino. So Christ giving the keys to heaven to Peter to run the church. Beautiful Renaissance painting in Italy by Perugino in the 1400s. Okay, here is, I think, a great story painting by Carl Bloch of how Christ told Peter, you shall deny me 3 times before the rooster crows. So you see Christ being walked away, and by the Pharisees, and then the Romans, and then you've got St. Peter in shame turns his head, and the rooster is getting ready to crow there. And here's another painting of St. Peter, Denial of Christ by Sagers in 1625. Great use of lighting, kind of reminds me of Rembrandt, that painting. Here's one by Caravaggio, again, the Denial of Christ before the rooster crows. There's just a lot of paintings of that. Here's Via Dolorosa, Christ carrying the cross. And this is an interesting painting. They've got a lot of contemporary by John McNaughton is the painter. They got a lot of contemporary figures in here. There's Joan of Arc. There's Mr. Badness in Russia. There's another Mr. Badness in Europe. Mr. Badness #2 in Russia. The Pope is crying. There's Christopher Columbus looking on. There's lots of other famous people in this painting. It's a rather fun painting. Via Dolorosa. And he's, what will you, the common man, do? Will you help him? Will you be like Simon who helped carry the cross? Mother Teresa, Martin Luther. A lot of famous people in that painting. Okay, now here's Carl Bloch's painting of Christ on the cross, 1870. So who shall run the church? St. Peter is supposed to. Okay, here's St. Peter preaching in the catacombs. This one by Jan Stejka, the Polish artist. Very nice painting. Here is the deliverance of St. Peter once from prison by an angel. This is painted by Raphael in 1514. Here is one of my favorite paintings of St. Peter, is St. Peter healing the sick. He learned from Christ. And the idea of it is that the sick, lame men, as they prayed for healing, St. Peter would walk by them and they would be healed by his shadow. And so as they have more time getting past the shadow, they start to stand up and be healthy. This one's by Masaccio. Okay. Healing God's way with sunshine and nature and family and friendship and low-fat vegan diet with no oil and exercise and stress reduction and religion. All those things make people a lot healthier and happier. So here's from the movie and the novel. It's a novel by Henry Sienkiewicz, the Polish writer. This is Quo Vadis, and Quo Vadis means where are you going? And it refers to a specific story about St. Peter and Christ. I'll come to that in just one moment. Here's a picture from the movie of Quo Vadis, and this is Vinicius. He actually was in that last slide. He is the Roman general. And this is Lygia. She was a barbarian princess being held hostage, in a sense, in Rome as negotiations with her barbarian group. And it's a beautiful story. It's a magnificent novel. I think it's like the 4th greatest novel of all time. the psychology of it is just so perfect. The main theme of the book is, early Christianity, the difference between the early Christians and the Romans, and the psychological drama of how these two think of each other, especially Vinicius. It very much emphasizes how a man thinks about a woman as he falls in love. And Vinicius thinking about Lygia is rather magnificent. The psychology is like perfect of how a man thinks about a woman. It's extraordinary. Okay, here is Nero in 64 AD. Nero started the fire and burnt down, a tremendously large part of Rome. I forget, it was about half of Rome. And he did it on purpose because he wanted space where he could put his own buildings up and do things that he wanted. So a ruler burning down property that he wants to use that land for himself. That's been around for a long time. And here's a painting of it. So it's rather shocking. Okay. Now here is the Christian martyrs in the Colosseum before they were thrown to the lions. So what Nero did was he blamed it on the Christians, and then he had them thrown to the lions in the Colosseum. And again, the painting is just magnificent. This was done by a Russian artist, Konstantin Filovitsky, in 1862. And what's extraordinary about it is the Russians had a lot of talent. So in the 1800s, when they were Christian, despite having a lot of serfdom and other problems, the Russians produced some magnificent paintings and they produced some magnificent literature. The greatest writer, of course, was, Fyodor Dostoevsky. His novel's magnificent, Brothers Karamazov. The Idiot is also good, and there's other books he wrote, but he was by far the best. Don't spare me with Tolstoy. Tolstoy was crazy, okay? Tolstoy had very accurate powers of perception and description, and to articulate what he saw, and it would be correct in how people behaved and stuff. But Tolstoy was sick in the head, and Tolstoy's like Anna Karenina is depressing. Yes, the descriptions are beautiful, but the message is bleak. The message is you must conform or you'll be destroyed. That's a shitty message compared to Brothers Karamazov. Well, Brothers Karamazov said, if you want to live a good life, you should live like Alyosha, because he was Christian and he was good and he did what was right no matter what the social context was. And then he lived a better life than did his brother Ivan, who, even though he was a genius, he had atheism messed him up. And Dmitri got his life messed up because he was a hothead. And Smerdyakov got his life messed up because he didn't think for himself. Okay, so it's a magnificent book, Brothers Karamazov. So here's the French painter Jean-Léon Gérôme, 1863, showing the Christian martyrs put before, into the Colosseum. The lions are coming out, and they burn some of them as torches. They were terrible to the Christians, and you see the brutality of the Romans towards the Christians and towards other people. It's terrible, and that's another reason why you really need Christianity and a Bible-based worldview in order to get people to be nice to each other. Without that, there's always going to be just sort of, they're going to dehumanize whoever they don't like, the ruler, and they're going to brutalize them. That's just the way people are without Christianity. Okay, here is Nero, and this painting is called Nero's Torches, and he burned the Christians as torches. So there's Nero up in here, pretty brutal, by Henry Siemierajki. Okay, now here's a scene from Quo Vadis, Domini Quo Vadis. Jesus, where are you going, Lord? And this one's by Annabel Carracci. And the Lord says to St. Peter, because you refuse to do your duty, I'm going back to Rome to be crucified again. So what this is about was, after seeing all these Christians thrown to the lions in the Colosseum, burnt as torches, St. Peter decided he was going to leave Rome. And then while he was leaving Rome, he had a vision of Christ telling him, walking towards Rome with a cross. And when he asked him, Christ, where are you going? He said, I'm going back to Rome to be crucified again because you have abandoned your people and you have not done your job. Okay, so St. Peter said, I'm sorry, God. And he turned around, he went to Rome. He went back to Rome and he was crucified. There was an interesting line. This is one from the book Quo Vadis. It said, Greece taught us poetry and wisdom. Rome taught us about power. The Christians have taught us about love and forgiveness. They're the ones that made it widespread on a large scale, and that's pretty well known. Hannah Arendt, who wrote the great book about what happened in Russia in the 1900s, she also said the exact same thing, as have many others. Christ brought forgiveness on a large scale and made it the way people should behave, be nice, would make the world a much better place if people behaved like that. Okay, here's Quo Vadis Domini, another painting, this one by Giovanni Odazzi, 1731. Okay, now here's one painting of the Crucifixion of St. Peter, this one by Michelangelo. So Michelangelo's great at drawing the human body, showing the muscles and the position and the intensity of gaze of St. Peter. So it's all good. This is 1550. He doesn't tend to do much with landscapes, keeps them pretty simple. And now, here's though the painting I think is magnificent. This is the one by Caravaggio. Caravaggio, by drawing up close and using, the contrast and the light, just draws out the emotion. You feel like you're on that cross there yourself. He said, I would like to be crucified upside down because I'm not worthy to be crucified upright like Christ. And so those are the paintings for the St. Peter's Feast of the Chair Day from the beginning of the Christian Church. I hope that was interesting for you.